What's going on, Reef family? Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, happy whatever day or time period you like to call this time of the year. It's been a while. Normally, I would give a nice lame excuse like I was busy and that I had a lot of family commitments and then promise like crazy to make more videos as soon as possible. But I'm not. YouTube is supposed to be fun, so I will promise to make more videos, but only when time allows, and that shouldn't be too much longer now as I have a ton of content to deliver. In the meantime, sorry for not making videos in a while. I was crazy busy with the holidays and had a ton of family stuff to do, so unfortunately, YouTube took a backseat, but not my tank or the business. With that out of the way, let's get into the update. First up are the fish, and I'm super happy to say that I am ick-free, turf algae-free, and 100% cycled. I got coraline growing on snails, rocks, and generally every place I don't want it to grow. Well, how did I do it? Well, it was pretty simple. Chloroquine and bacteria. While my rock and sand were out of the tank, I decided for once and for all to make my entire display disease-free, even though no fish were showing signs of any diseases. Normally, copper would be the item of choice, but since copper has a nasty habit of binding to silicone and other things, I decided to go with chloroquine, which readily breaks down with strong lighting and is easily removed with carbon. Basically, I turned my entire 350-gallon display into a giant hyposaline quarantine dosed with chloroquine. 15 days of chloroquine was enough to pretty much wipe out all diseases, and regular additions of Metroplex and antibiotics had my fish looking their best ever. After the treatment, I simply did a massive 200-gallon water change using some cheap instant ocean and ran a whole bunch of carbon. In the meantime, I went ahead and gave my sump and all of my equipment a nice deep cleaning. I didn't have to do this. I wanted to do this because I felt like a good restart should be complete, and that means not taking any chances. Now, for the second part of this refresh was bacteria. I mentioned before that bacteria is very important. My first year of this tank was one of the best I've ever had in my fish keeping career, and I attributed this to the diversity of bacteria that I constantly fed into my tank on a regular basis. So for this refresh, I made sure to dose lots and lots of Dr. Tim's bacteria, as well as copious amounts of Microbacter 7. To this day, I still continue to dose Microbacter 7 and will continue to do it indefinitely. I buy Microbacter 7 by the gallons on Amazon, and each bottle lasts me for quite some time at around 50 to 100 milliliters a week, depending on if I did water changes that week or not. But while getting the tank ready was my priority, I did not forget core principles of reef keeping, which was that nothing really beats water changes, regular sand vacuuming, and pump maintenance. With a system as complex as mine, it's easy to get lazy and stop checking every single component because it's long and tedious. But during the deep cleaning of my sump, I realized and found issues that I would have never caught until it was too late. I found issues where condensation was causing some equipment to prematurely rust, indicating some screws in close proximity to the sump were not a good idea. I found areas where, due to the type of magnets I used in my tank skinning, they were completely rusted out, and they could have been blowing around or even getting into my sump. I found issues that were due just to age. My drains in my enclosed Synergy Reef overflow needed to be pulled out and cleaned up because they were getting a little clogged from all of those little calcareous creatures. Which reminds me that if you decide on an external overflow and the 8-foot tank, don't put it in the middle. Offset that sucker easily to one side that is really accessible, because it's not fun to lay prone on a piece of plywood across the top of your display, scrubbing inside of your overflow box while your radions give you a nice tan. Overall, the 350 is in the best shape it's been, and in the new update, expect to start seeing the return of some of those sweet SPS. In the meantime, there's still a few fish I need to get into here, but they are happily in quarantine. Now that I have a dedicated quarantine setup that is running 24/7 and fully cycled, this shouldn't be an issue of keeping my tank and my fish disease-free. But more to come on that later. Switching over to the ELOS 120, what can I say? That tank is just trucking along on steroids. The only issue that happened there was the mysterious death of my sailfin and coal tang. and unfortunately the mate of one of my clownfish that I had ever since they were born. I suspected that it may have been velvet, which I saw signs of on my clownfish, who survived and is now in quarantine. The funny thing is that the only additions to this tank was a cleanup crew of shrimp purchased from a local LFS that I am no longer affiliated with. I couldn't say it was the cleanup crew itself, because technically speaking, a lot of cleanup crew don't really carry bacteria that affect fish. But the bacteria could have gotten into the display in the small amount of water in the nets as I moved the shrimp and crabs and snails in. This was a new LFS far from me, so since I can't prove it's not responsible to name names, I can't prove it. But I will say that where possible, rinse your cleanup crews well in fresh salt water before adding them to your display, or better yet, quarantine them if you can. It just takes a drop to cause issues. Nonetheless, the system is currently fish-free for a few weeks while the bacteria kills itself off, and I have a new group of fish that will be making their way into this tank. Due to its size, I'm thinking of a species-specific tank, and I can't wait to show you guys what I came up with. The one thing I miss about this tank is the death of my coal tank. He was influential in keeping algae down in this tank, and I really don't think that I can successfully keep a reef these days without a really nice coal tang or at least a lawnmower blenny. So you can expect a coal or a lawnmower blenny to be one of the first additions to this tank, because I definitely noticed the impact of them being gone. I definitely see a couple of tufts of hair algae, and that's because I feed this tank heavily. This tank gets regular additions of Fido. It gets a ton of particulate food for all of the LPS and the LPS and Euphyllia that are in here. So for that reason, I know I run high nutrients in this tank, but that doesn't give me a reason to not include these fish, because they were influential in keeping all of my rocks clean. So definitely look forward to that. So with that, I think I'll wrap this video up. Overall, things have been going well. The 350 is right on track, and the ELOS 120 is basically full with very little space left. All that's left to do now is showcase what I've been doing with Project Moby. I can't wait to show you guys what I've been up to and finally reveal the future of Tristian's Reef and TRSC Aquatics. For those of you who have been with me from the start, thanks so much for your support. And for those of you that are new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button and throwing me a like. I'm not asking anyone for Patreon or anything like that, just confirmation that you enjoy what I do, because that's what keeps me doing it. As always, you guys keep doing what you do, happy reefing, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.